how do you feel right now? This is not to have some mushy, touchy-feely, emotional conversation. No, but if you're not aware of how you feel right now, then the most important thing you can do is start to explore. And there are four main emotions: happy, sad, mad, and afraid. So for a man who's listening, if you know, because as long as we're alive, we have emotions. So in any given moment, one of those is going to be more dominant. And just being aware of that gives a man power, presence, and the capacity to trust himself more rather than looking for a woman to know how he's doing.
Coming up on this week's episode of the Ask Women podcast, we dive into women and their feelings and how to navigate these feelings of theirs, as well as how to navigate your own feelings so that you can not only gain respect from the women around you, but also create attraction and a sexual desire for you. So you're going to want to listen to this episode. We have Alexandra from the Intimate Marriage podcast coming on today. So keep listening.
I'm so glad to be here, and I really adore the way it's set up as a kind of triad of sisterhood, serving men, answering questions. I love the format.
Oh, wonderful.
Well, I'm so glad someone included me as a woman because normally they're like the two women
You're
and
on
the guy.
other side and the other side. Exactly.
No, it is really nice. And I'll just add to that real quickly because guys will criticize and say don't take advice from women. But I don't say that just because I work in this industry and you work in this industry and Marnie works in this industry. If you're hunting deer, don't you want to know the inside information of where the deer hangs out, what the deer wants, when the deer sleeps, when it eats, when it's horny? Like, I don't understand the don't take advice from women stuff. So I'm glad that you pointed out because we actually don't address that very often. So
yeah, but
thanks,
it really is
thanks
just
for
be
listening to
careful
chicks.
what advice you take from the deers. There's some deers who are like, I
Oh,
don't know what
absolutely.
you would do to hunt me. Other ones are like, I'm going to tell you everything that will keep you the hell away from me. And there's certain ones who are like, here, I know how you can get that one over there.
And
So
same
it's
with
being
hunters.
calculated.
Same with
Absolutely.
hunters, though. They're not all great. Some of them are good, some of them are not. So yeah, you have to be discerning.
So just be picky, just like you are in your dating life and how you should be in your dating life. So Alexandra, so I got connected to you because I was home in Toronto for the summer and I made a new friend at my gym named, it doesn't matter what her name is actually, because I don't know if she wants me to share her name, but she had been going on and on about this amazing couples counselor that her and her husband had seen who had like saved their marriage. So you are that person. She was very happy to introduce me to you. And I brought you on to the show today because I know that you are an expert when it comes to two things that I really want to talk about today, which is number one, how to be steady and shine in the face of a woman's emotionality and why attention is your best asset. So those are the two things that I really want to cover with you. But if you can give the people who are listening a little brief intro into you and why they should listen to you and you know what you're talking about, I would love that.
Absolutely. So I'll just be very frank, starting at the beginning. My parents were divorced when I was a child. My husband's parents were divorced when he was a child. We both met the first week of medical school. We're both physicians, and we were in love. Like everything was good, collaborative. There were no red flags, nothing like that. And I fully anticipated that we would get divorced. It was like I didn't have the capacity to think differently. And in fact, I've been married now 28 years and I have no question about getting divorced at this point. But
oh, wow.
In the early years of our marriage, we got married in 1996. This was before iPhones and just like all the technology and so forth. And so when we had our first child, I remember just like mentally wanting to track how things were so that in the future I could tell her how wonderfully her parents got along. And at some point, I started to think, oh, actually, maybe we won't get divorced because things are going well. On the other hand, they looked better than they felt. We were both high achieving, focused on our careers, really collaborative in parenting and finances. But it was not what the poets write about. Like we had what I would call functional sex, meaning it served the function, but afterwards I didn't feel closer to him. Basically, without spending a lot of time describing it, it was a dehydrated marriage. So on the outside, it looked good, but it was a dehydrated marriage. And at some point, I started to wonder, is it actually possible to create a fantastic, gratifying, alive, vitality filled, interdependent, not codependent marriage? And the answer, unquestionably, is yes, based on my lived experience and the hundreds of couples I've coached. And one of the really key things is for a woman to take responsibility and understand her man in a heteronormative context. And I think one of the most eye-opening experiences that I had was coaching the first couple I ever coached. And I heard how she spoke about him to me and how she addressed him. And they were devoted. I mean, they were there to take their relationship to the next level and work out the complications. And I just was thinking inside, how can she talk to him that way? Because I got to see how they interacted in a more private, intimate setting. And about a breath after, I thought, how come she talks to him that way? I thought to
How was she
myself.
talking?
Well, I'll say in a second, but I want to say that I immediately thought, oh, that's exactly how I talk to my husband.
Mm.
And it's this disrespect, basically. It's unconscious, unintentional disrespect. And I think this is one of the keys that I address pretty much with every couple I ever coach, where a man, okay, there are like narcissistic assholes. There are men who are dominating and unpleasant. And what I'm about to say does not pertain to those people who do actually exist. But the vast majority of men are good men who want to figure out how to please a woman, how to be able to take their generosity of spirit and figure out how to succeed with their woman. And women don't get that and are fundamentally disrespectful in ways that are sort of subtle and pervasive and insidious. So I feel like one of the keys to any good marriage is for the woman to learn to be respectful. However, there's a whole process that a man can go through that earns him that respect. This is not about waiting for women to change. That is too long a wait for any decent person.
Okay, well, tell me more. I'm captivated. I want to hear more.
Me too.
So
Marnie and I, we can talk shit on women, and I love having a third woman. Not afraid. I'm not saying you're talking shit on women. It's my casual assessment of it, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just so much constant men bashing. It's like we're part of things. We're human beings too, and so I love this. I'm like, yes, let's go. Yeah.
But I do also like how you did say that it is, it's a partnership, that the disrespect can potentially grow from somewhere, or the respect can grow from somewhere, where both people are participants in that.
Yeah, so I said that mostly to acknowledge what most men experience, whether they would describe it that way consciously or not. I think it is the rare man who hasn't encountered this to some degree with any woman he's relatively close with. So I think one of the most important ways for a man to change this, whether he's going to be dating, he's already dating, or he's in a committed relationship, one of the most important things is to figure out and be interested in how you feel. We know that men are basically conditioned to feel anger or feel nothing. And the thing that is really the path to being respected is, I'm going to say you, but I mean you, man who is listening, is for you to really up-level the relationship you have with yourself. And the main way to do that, besides, working out and taking care of yourself, the much more important way that has the biggest impact in terms of how women respond is if you pay attention to what is happening inside you. So you may be amazing at focusing on what needs to be done around the house and what needs to be get done professionally. But if you just take a moment right now and think, how do you feel right now? This is not to have some mushy, touchy feely, emotional conversation. No, but if you're not aware of how you feel right now, then the most important thing you can do is start to explore. And there are four main emotions: happy, sad, mad, and afraid.
Okay.
So for a man who's listening, if you know which of, because as long as we're alive, we have emotions. So in any given moment, one of those is going to be more dominant. And just being aware of that gives a man power, presence, and the capacity to trust himself more rather than looking for a woman to know how he's doing.
Okay. Tell me more about this, because I want to know. I actually want to know more before I ask any questions. So tell me more.
Okay, well, especially for educated, high achieving, ambitious, motivated, financially successful men, the only way to achieve those successes is, at least to some degree, to ignore what's happening inside. So I am a physician. I'll use extreme examples from being a physician. We all learn to stand in the OR for 7-10 hours without even going to the bathroom. That is overriding physiological feelings. But certainly we all know that, if you wake up and you're in a bad mood, you can't just, like, I don't know, go play video games. Not if you are a high performer or an educated person who takes responsibility and makes things happen in life. So part of success is ignoring how we feel. And then it can be confronting and confusing to begin to think, oh, actually, how you feel as a man, not in like feminine talk, but just knowing what is happening inside you, in your soul, is essential for being able to connect with a woman, because the relationship you have with yourself is far and away the biggest determinant in the quality of relationship you're going to have with a woman. And so I'm not talking about feelings to make anyone effeminate or like emasculate anyone. No, it's just that your feelings and thoughts are a part of you and are the most influential part in your relationship to yourself, which is the thing that needs to be strengthened in order to have a more successful relationship with a woman.
Okay. So tell me how that plays out with women. So if the guy is walking around saying, "I'm happy now, I'm sad now, I'm angry now, I'm frustrated," where does the respect come into play? Because like on a and where does the lack of respect come from? Like in being tied to these emotions, like how does this information create more connection and intimacy? Like how do you use that to connect the two?
Beautiful question. Thank you. So I am definitely not picturing a man walking around saying, I'm happy, I'm sad. Like, no, please
I'd be
do
like, "Oh,
not
you
do that.
fucking idiot! Shut up!"
That is so
Right?
not attractive.
Yeah.
But, and in some moments, how you feel is more important, and in some moments, it's less important. But the main thing is to have access to it and not have it just be a black box that you're unaware of. That's probably a better way to put it. It's not that you need
Okay.
to constantly track it all the time, but that there are times when you have feelings and you should know what they are, because most good men are looking to the woman they're interacting with, whether it's messaging on a dating app or out at dinner or someone you've been in a relationship for a while, and the longer you're with someone, the more likely this is, but it happens at every stage, that men will look to the woman to know if they're doing well, will take cues like, oh, does she think what I'm saying is interesting? Oh, then I feel good. Is she kind of bored and pulling out her phone and wishing she wasn't here, or she didn't like the restaurant I chose? Oh, then
Right.
I feel sucky. It's just that
That makes sense.
men don't necessarily say that last part, but there's a way in which, we don't need to do this particularly with any depth, but it's very understandable that a boy would feel this way when his mother is taking care of him and he's oriented to how she feels, to know how he's doing. I don't really like oversimplifying things, but that's just a context to see how this could arise in otherwise competent men, where it's like, it's actually astonishing to me when I coach couples where, someone may have a paragraph of accomplishments and positions in their email signature, and they feel insecure unless they know their wife is happy with them in any given moment. But I mean, I have more examples from couples, but this pertains at the beginning of the relationship. So if you're not looking to a woman for validation because you know how you feel and you are tracking that and attending to it, then you don't show up in this sort of subtle, subversive way
Yeah.
as a needy
Guide me.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
is that what you're saying is where the lack of respect comes from? It's when men are showing up as a follower versus a leader. And I may be simplifying it a little bit, but is that where the
yeah,
lack of
let's go
respect
with
comes
that.
from?
It is a little simplified, but it's appropriate for, this conversation to get the idea that, you know, maybe to put it another way is, first of all, the most attractive quality in a man is confidence. Do you two agree
Mm-hmm.
with that?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. A
So
thousand
then,
percent.
okay, so it's not your haircut or what shoes you're wearing, or it's like that you are confident. And so let's consider the qualities of confidence. It's trusting yourself, it's feeling like you have enough range to navigate what's going to happen, it's being able to show initiative and lead and also be flexible and go with the flow, not be too rigid, not be too mushy. And confidence requires having a healthy relationship with oneself, which includes knowing what feelings you have. So I wish I
Mm-hmm.
had a more masculine way to reference feelings. The whole word feelings feels sort of feminine.
No, it's not. It's actually it is, I think, a very clear way. So last night I actually did a master class. We had this guy named Keith Yackey on, who, what is his called? The Marriage Game is his company, and he teaches about these 5 dials that men should be paying attention to. But even that, as a precursor to that, he talks about a man's standards, which then give validation to who he is. And that may be the more masculine way to frame what you're saying. That it's it's that he has standards. It's that cleaning up the kitchen isn't because I'm doing this to get something from my wife or my girlfriend or a girl that I'm dating. It's because I don't want fucking dirt on my counter, because I'm that great of a guy who doesn't accept dirt on the counter. Or I wear my clothes like this and I'm proud of wearing my clothes like this because that's how I dress as a man. I don't dress like a schlub. You know what I mean? So he equated it to standards that he had and how he feels about things rather than just his emotions in general, right? So instead of being like, I'm okay with that, or I don't really have an opinion on it, it's that he feels things about things and is aware of what his feelings are, and then from that the standards come. And that's what puts him into the position of being the leader with women. And I'm simplifying what he said, but it was kind of like that.
I really love it. And I would say both standards and values. Like, part of being confident is, whether it's conscious or not, you need to know what your standards are and what your values are. It's part of being authentic and in integrity, another
Yeah.
requirement for confidence. However, I do want to distinguish what I'm saying a little bit in a
Okay.
nuanced way, because standards and values and how we feel about the kitchen being cleaned, those are a little bit conceptual. They're not only conceptual, but they are a little bit conceptual, intellectual, theoretical. I mean to use those words equivalently. And I'm really interested in inviting a man who wants a quality relationship to find the way that works for him to be more connected with his heart or his feelings. And the reason for that is that that is required to feel gratified connection with a woman. So this is a both and. I'm a full yes to what
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
just described from Keith, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
And it's a really good way to start. It's fine to start from the top down. Like, think through, what are your values, what are your standards, how do you want your presence to be felt, and the advanced essential move for really being open to feel connection with a woman is also being able to know how you feel, or to have a sense of your heart and not just your mind, because you can meet the most amazing woman and be confident and do all the things that look amazing on social media, but not actually feel
Mm-hmm.
gratified. Or you can have great sex, but not have
Connect.
like erotic passion unless you have the capacity to be present in a more emotional realm as a man.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to do an yes, yes, and. So
Oh,
you did the
good.
yes, and. Now I'm doing a yes, yes, and adding. One thing that I always focus on with the guys that I work with, and it's all confidence based, but is knowing their point of view and their opinions. And there's, of course, a fine line between having opinions and being opinionated. Like, you don't want to get into the territory where you're obnoxious or unmovable in your thinking, but you want to know who you are and what your point of view is on things, and be confident enough in it that if you get new information, your point of view or your opinion can change. But you do know who you are and you're able to express it in a fun, not all fun all the time, but either in a fun way or a calm way, a non-angered way. And just it exudes, it's just tapping into like what you're saying and Marnie's saying. It's tapping into who you actually truly are, not suppressing it, and then your energy shifts and you start attracting more people because you're just so authentically connected to yourself that that's then how you can connect outwardly. But until you're connected inwardly, it won't happen. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, this ties into one of the main things that I teach, and it's also the name of my book, which is uncompromising intimacy. Because so, like, far and away, the most common relationship advice that is given is that if you want a good relationship, you have to be good at compromise. Compromise is the essential ingredient to a good marriage, and that is just completely wrong. Good marriage, good relationship, good dating experience is just completely wrong, because when we compromise, we're basically withholding parts of who we are so our partner is more comfortable. So you might want to have Thai food, but your partner wants Italian, so you go to Italian and never even say that you wanted Thai food. I mean, maybe that's the right move for a first date, but I'm just using that as a trend, that if you're accommodating your partner's desires and preferences and not attuned to what yours are and not presencing them, that is internally a slow death, which many men in relationships are familiar with,
Mm-hmm.
and
And
the
it leads to
and
disrespect.
and it
I can
leads to
see I can see the
disrespect.
trail. Every time you chisel away a little bit at who you are and what you want and you give that up, to somebody else. Not that somebody's making you give it up, that you yourself make the choice to give that up.
We're all trained in culture to
100%
give
to
that up. That's
compromise.
what compromise is about. And so, yes, I just want to add that the key is to learn to share the truth of who you are and be able to receive the truth of who the other person is. And that might sound like a lot for a first date, but these are skills that are like learnable, and you can practice them to a calibrated degree in every stage of an interaction. So if you're messaging someone on a dating app and they love dogs, and you're like, like,
I can deal with dogs.
so then you say, oh, that's awesome. You can find something else to say which is true and authentic. But if you're just saying, oh, that's awesome, that is ultimately a path for feeling disrespected and a mismatch. Whether or not you stay married for 25 years, it's still a mismatch because you don't actually mean that that's awesome. Actually, that's sort of inconvenient.
Today I was working with somebody and we were in a hypothetical scenario conversation, man, woman, and she worked at an art gallery and he is not interested in art. And so much of the session I was fixated on making sure that he did not pretend to like art. You can still connect on many other things. Maybe for her, that's a deal breaker. If that's a deal breaker for her, she's not meant for you. But the amount of men that pretend to be interested in something to just please a woman is wild. And it's so unappealing to women who are actually attuned to seeing that you're not being genuine and you're just going with it and pretending. Obviously, you'll get away with it sometimes and maybe it will get you laid. And if that's your goal, okay. But
Right.
never
If your
ever in
goal,
terms of a relationship.
exactly. If your goal is to get laid, then please disregard about
Yeah, anything that
70%
you're
of what I
saying.
said.
Yeah. Well,
But
But
if
I
your
was
also,
gonna.
but
goal is a
also,
meaningful relationship, then heed it
Yeah.
all.
Well, can I
but
ask
the
you? Oh,
guy,
sorry.
I'm sorry, Martin, one more thing. The
Go
guy
ahead.
that does say the thing that's uncomfortable or they doesn't enjoy the same hobbies, he's more likely to get laid because that is attractive. When a
And it's
guy
an
is not
expression of
kowtowing,
confidence.
absolutely.
Well, can I ask a question? Because I know we were going to get to talking about how to be steady and shine in the face of a woman's emotionality, but I think that the conversation's going in a different direction, and I'm okay to leave that for another time. But can you explain more about the women talking disrespectfully? Because I do want to get a better understanding of what is going on for them and
You
where
mean
the
what is
actual
going on for the women?
for the women. That, like, I want to give insight to these men as to where this lack of respect stems from. Does not mean it's appropriate behavior, but because I know that this happens for me as well. I get into and I just noticed that I was with my father for 2 months, right? And I have a huge level of disrespect for him because
I've known this for years.
yes, but
It's funny.
because he chisels away pieces of him on a daily basis with the women in his family, and it should be seen as the nicest thing in the entire world. And logically, I can say my dad is the best man ever. He like sacrifices everything, but on a respect level, I don't. It's horrible. I should respect him beyond the moon for everything that he's done, but I like can't. There's something in my body that doesn't allow me to, and I try to belittle him every chance that I get with the way that I talk to him because I'm anyway, I'm just like, this is my therapy session, but I'm just saying, like, there's something there that's in us when a man can't do certain things or isn't doing certain things. I would like you to explain it from the medical MD position rather than my emotional bitchiness towards my father.
Okay, well, I love that you've said that, and you're way ahead of the game because of your awareness. And that this is not the medical perspective, this is my perspective. And, you know, as women, we've been promised the capacity for impact, power, connection, having it all, etc. I mean, in the 60s, we couldn't open a bank account without it being co-signed. But most of us who are dating, anyone who's listening, we've been promised a certain fullness in our life and expression and being who we are. However, we haven't really been taught how to embody that with elegance and effectiveness, most of us. And so I'm going to talk about it in terms of how I speak with my children and then bring it back. Like, I have 4 children, and at one point I realized that when I wanted one of them, any of them, to do something, like let's say pick up toys in the living room, that I would use force. I don't mean physical force. I mean force in my energy and in my voice, like pick it up, like I would like generate energy in order to communicate with them, with the unconscious hope that the energy I was sending would function as a force to propel them forward and do the thing I was requesting. Well, we can get a result from that when we're interacting with people who are terrified of us. Mm-hmm. But in terms of a kind, loving relationality, that is a terrible way to interact. And I think one of the prime lessons for women to learn is the difference between force and ease, or surrender, invitation. I'm not quite in the frame of mind for how I would talk with women about it, but there's a way in which we're missing a bunch of tools. And so just like if you have a hammer, you see a nail. If you have a man in your life who's not showing up or taking actions as you would wish, or taking actions you don't wish, the main tool we lean towards is a kind of judgmental forcefulness, which is functionally disrespect. So for a woman, the key really is to access a whole other range of radiance, invitation, inspiration. Like, if we could do another podcast for women and really go into this, but it's like we have a whole range as humans. Yeah. What?
I said it would be wasted on us.
No, not at all. I know that you catch what I'm saying without my spelling it all out.
We're hopeless.
Yeah, I'm joking.
Please. So, like, mostly we have all 88 keys in our body and soul as women, and we tend to stick to like 2 or 3 notes. The note of like validation and approval, and the note of frustration, forcefully or indirectly conveyed. And in a way, it depends how we do approval, but there's the real potential for all 3 of those notes to functionally be forms of disrespect. And so for a woman to learn how to stop being disrespectful, she has to get to know herself better, learn to play, I'm thinking of the 88 keys on the piano, learn to play more notes, more songs, different kinds of music, because there are so many ways to inspire change or accept that change is not happening and not have that function as something that's disconnecting. But I just really want to reiterate that having a fantastic relationship with oneself and another person, these are learnable skills, and for the most part, they're not taught. So if you're a man wishing for a woman who takes responsibility for herself in the way that we are talking about, I've got a few words for you. Namely, take responsibility for your own experience in the way that we've been talking about, because that makes you attractive to the kind of woman I'm describing. And if you're checked out...
But it sounds like it also makes you not just attractive, but it makes that respect come back. So like, I don't know which comes first, the chicken or the egg. Because when I do hear you explaining about like talking in another tone, so even for my children, I talk to them in that tone for the first 8 minutes. And then if they do not pick
Oh
up those damn
God.
toys, they get yelled at for not. So there is like you do have to have the participation from both people. And again, if this was a podcast for women, I would say 100% work on your tonality, be nicer with your words. But this is for men, and so I want to help men bring out that warmer side in women. And yes, it's ultimately their responsibility. And if you raise yourself to a higher level and she can't catch up, then that's not the woman for you. And then you go on to somebody else that can. But what is a way for men to assist in her not being so bitchy? Like she's bitchy
Okay,
for a
let me
reason,
take
or is she
that.
just bitchy because she's a woman?
No. Uh, I'm going to take that and turn towards the topic we were going to talk about, but then moved away from because it's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
related. So the image, like, it is okay. Of course, there are super competent professional women, but in relationship, it is most women's native state to have a range of emotions and to be able to move through them and not feel like they have to only be logical or that they're too much for their man. Like, that's a terrible feeling. So, for a man who wants to be able to shine and stay grounded and really um, not be overwhelmed by the chaos of a woman's emotionality, I really love to use the image of the oak tree, where a man's job is to be tall, rooted, unequivocally present, not like a willow tree which bends with the wind or, something, an oak tree which is really strong and sure the outer branches can move a little bit, and to think of a woman's emotionality as changing weather. So sometimes the sun is shining, sometimes it's raining, windy, snow, a hurricane, a tornado, or more placid seasons. But either way, a man's job, in a way that earns profound respect, is not to go on the woman's emotionality and changing weather ride, but to really stay rooted and grounded as an oak tree. And when a woman is in more of a stormy mode, she's not going to be affirming you for being the oak tree. You're going to have to reference your own sense of rightness, your own self acceptance and self awareness, and really be the oak tree. So a man who is able to be the oak tree is going to earn respect from a woman who's going to have room to be authentic. And sometimes that's going to be emotional. And it's not that she doesn't impact him, but she doesn't have to worry about him. If she's worrying whether he can withstand her emotions, that's not going to get you respect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that was perfectly explained. And I think that guys have a visual for what happens. It's just hard because when you, like, it is complicated. It is very complicated. It sounds like women are a pain in the ass a lot of the times because the men don't feel the same way. And it does, sound, it just, it sounds like a lose lose, but also a win win for men. Like, like if you don't have the right tools, it can feel like you're always losing. But I think, like, exactly what you said at the beginning of the podcast, being clear on your emotion and what's going on for you at that time so that you can handle her emotions, right? Being in tune with who you are, your wants, your values, your opinions, like Kristen said. Those are things that not only gain respect from women, they also create attraction. And the more that you can stand in those spaces, I believe that's where respect comes from. It's going to, waffle sometimes because that's just humans. But I think on a day-to-day basis, like, that's what's going to have continued respect, which leads to continued intimacy, which leads to genuine love. That's what I think about everything that you said. Cause I think like, I think you're sending good information out there is what I'm trying to say. Kristen has a comment. And then actually I have to get off to go.
I have a really quick question about showing emotion for men because I think it does get confusing for them. What's the line and how do you show emotion without being considered moody? Because there's all these different moods, and if we're reflecting them all the time, it's like, oh, he's moody or she's moody. So what's the difference and how do you express it?
It's easy to answer, it's challenging in practice, but there's a real difference between embodying your emotions, being connected with how you feel, and being dramatic. And I'm not a fan of drama for men or women, but it takes some playing around to get the difference. I think one of the most important differences is being aware of your emotions, not hiding them, letting them be seen, while being completely self responsible for how you're feeling. What doesn't work, which creates drama, grumpiness, and the things you said, is blaming someone else. You know, if you think, well, you're grumpy because she blah, blah, okay, don't, you got to just deal with that. And if that made you grumpy, then that is an opportunity to learn about yourself, why you were vulnerable to becoming grumpy when she did that. She didn't create the grumpiness. She created whatever she created, not showing up for the date or, whatever it is she did. That's what she created. How you feel about it is what you created. And if you feel good about creating that, fine. And if you don't, then do your work to discover what's underneath and create something different the next time it happens.
Good
I love
answer.
that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Alexandra, for coming on to our show. And if you wanted to get more information on Alexandra, go listen to, where did I put it down? The Intimate Marriage podcast, and go check that out. I'm sure you can listen to it on anywhere that podcasts are played. But thank you so much for coming on to the show today. And welcome back, Kristen and Marnie, because we've been off for a couple of months. A little
Well,
rusty at first, but I think we got back into the flow.
we have, but I think it's cool, Alexandra. You have such a calming energy, and I think it's splashing over onto Marty and I. I know I can be a little hyperactive, and so I'm liking this calm demeanor.
Yeah.
But I know by our second episode back, we'll be back to not being so calm. But I
Yeah.
really like this break
No,
of just being and.
but it's interesting that it shows like when you're calm like this,
Hmm.
and you stick with it, which so Alexandra is practicing everything that she's talking about. She's very clear on
Yeah.
how she feels and she's not wavering to match what we are. But I will say when you did that firm like, hey, like that
Yeah.
kind of spooked me for a second and I really paid attention. Anyway, thanks guys for listening to this podcast. New episodes of the Ask Women podcast come out at 5 p.m. Pacific on Thursdays. Please go and subscribe to our show. Share it with any man that you think this will be beneficial for. We love you guys. You're awesome. We'll see you next week.